Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Mean Green Game Day for one final time during the Bowl edition as the North Texas Mean Green will take on the Troy Trojans in the New Orleans Bowl down in the Bayou in the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm Kyle Yeomans, your host, alongside Drake Lawson, Josh Conrad, and Ashley Pickle here for Mean Green Game Day as our Season 3 is coming to an end, and an outstanding season it's been for North Texas. They won the CUSA West. They went to the championship game in Boca Raton. Now, didn't necessarily go their way, though, losing to FAU by a score of 41-17. I know Drake and Ashley, you both were there at the game. Josh, you were here with Mean Green Game Day. We were watching it as well. I do want to get your thoughts on what actually conspired down at FAU and what allowed Lane Kiffin to be so successful against the Mean Green.
I think it's just that they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. There's a gap, a talent level gap that we just couldn't overcome as far as North Texas. Lane Kiffin's a great coach. I mean, the double reverse pass to, in the end zone to the receiver. I mean, that's just stuff you don't ever see. I mean, he had great coaching, great game plan. They really showed that our secondary was weak. I mean, if there's one thing that North Texas can work on, it's the secondary, because they just got burned constantly in that game. I thought we did a good job on stopping their run game, but, I mean, they passed all over us. There's a lot to work on, but at the end of the day, FAU is just a better team.
Yeah. I think it showed the first game versus FAU wasn't a fluke. And we can't say, oh, man, maybe if we had Jeffrey Wilson, it would be different. Well, we saw what it looked like with Jeffrey Wilson. I think it just comes down to FAU has better players right now. They're in a better system right now. They had more players coming back this year. We're more of a young team. This wasn't supposed to be our year anyways. This is a team that's built more for next year with all the sophomores, all the freshmen. There is a good thing that maybe came out of it. Maybe people will look at Seth Luttrell and say, maybe not just yet. Maybe we won't take him. Although it is crazy to judge a guy based on one game. Yeah. But it just shows the first game wasn't a fluke. They have better players, better athletes. At the end of the day, you can't do much about that.
And I mean, watching a game on TV, they look bigger, they look stronger. Watching them in person, I can promise you, they look bigger and they look stronger. I mean, we were down there on the sideline. We could clearly see that they were just better athletes than what we have in this moment right now. But the other thing, I don't know if it's just they weren't awake, if it's something about being by the beach. You hear the waves in the background. They have a big sign on their field that says 1.8 miles to the beach. I don't know if they were thinking about the beach or thinking about the game, but man, they just weren't awake, and they weren't, especially in the first half. And we went to the press conference afterwards, and they said that. They were like, the first half, we just weren't ready to go. We weren't awake. Mason said that. Michael Lawrence said that. Seth said that. But then in the third quarter, they woke up some. You saw some good, decent football. Had we had that in the first half, maybe it would have been a different game. And then, of course, FAU woke up again, and the fourth quarter wasn't any better. But the third quarter was a little bit positive.
Yeah, definitely. So, and you look back at what North Texas did in that first matchup in Boca Raton, and it was the same kind of storyline. It was down 24-0, then they were down 31-7, got off to just a horrendous start, and it ended up really translating for the rest of the game. Even though they played better in the second half of both of these matchups, it just seemed like, well, North Texas is inconsistent, at least to start the game. And I feel like that's a theme that's also happened throughout the year. Is that something we should worry about for North Texas going into this bowl game, not being able to put four consistent quarters together?
I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely something to worry about. The biggest thing that Ashley was pointing to, that Mason Fine even admitted, that they were timid. They were scared to lose. And you can't go into a game, especially in a game like this against Troy, and be scared to play in a bowl game, to be scared to play in the Superdome. You got to go in there with confidence in yourself, just letting it fly, letting it be the new Denton atmosphere that you've had all year, that there's someone against us, that, we're not going to be the next team. Don't be scared about, we have something to prove. Go out and prove them wrong. Just go out there and have some fun and play the way they know how to play. They did that a little bit in the second half. At the end of the day, it wasn't enough to overcome. Had it been a different team other than FAU, we could have came back like we had against other teams throughout the season, like UTSA. But FAU is too good of an opponent. You can't play like that. And I think Troy's too good. You can't come out there and not have confidence in yourself. Have confidence and have fun.
I think play calling. We weren't aggressive in the game.
Okay.
We settled too much for running. Our game is passing. We throw the ball really well, especially with Jeffrey Wilson. Now, I know Nick Smith is a great runner, but we weren't aggressive enough, and that goes on Graham Harrell. That goes on these offensive coaches. In a game plan like FAU, where you saw from the first play of the game, we're not going to stop them a single time in this game because they can run the ball, power us through it. We have to match that offensively, and we weren't doing it. We were settling. We're saying, we're going to beat them with our punting game. You're not going to win a field possession game at all. You have to be aggressive in the game, and it cost them the game.
I do have to disagree with you because we did go for a fake field goal that missed.
Yeah.
We did try to go aggressive. We tried to throw the ball.
The third down play calls were awful.
Mason
in the
Fine
first
had a
quarter.
terrible interception there too towards the end of the half when we were going down to score as well.
Yeah.
There was a lot of terrible decisions made by Mason himself, and he admitted it. He was timid. He was scared. They went out there. The coaching actually tried to get us involved. We had a fake field goal. It was wide open touchdown. Quinn Shambor missed him. He missed him. There was opportunities that we took. We were aggressive. Maybe we could have been more aggressive. I agree. But we were aggressive enough to be in that game.
Yeah.
The players just weren't out there. I mean, we had a fumble. They fumbled the punt. We punted it. They fumbled it. They didn't catch it. And we didn't even pick up the ball. They just tackled the guy. They didn't even worry about getting the ball.
Combining the two of yours, though, we had that one opportunity. We went for that fake field goal, and it didn't work. Once you get down by a certain amount, you go out there and you play aggressive. I think what had happened was we tried it once, it didn't work. We got a little pity party. They went back over there. Crap, here it goes. Here's another replay of the FAU game last time. So combine the two of you. Yes, we did start off maybe a little bit more aggressive, but then once it didn't work, it's like we kind of laid down. We gave up. Graham was like, okay, we'll just stick to what we know. No, you're in a conference championship game. You've got however many weeks until a bowl game. We didn't know at the time. We could have not been playing till the end of December. You go out there and you go for it, and they didn't continue. So they might have started off that way, but they didn't continue to do it, and I think that I agree with that is what is going to hurt us.
Yeah.
Did you see FAU's play calling, and did you see our play calling?
FAU's play
There's
calling
a bit
was,
of a difference.
No, it was superior
So,
compared to Seth
that's
Luttrell.
what we should try to do.
But not everyone's Lane Kiffin, not everyone's going to take, and the chances that he does with the players that he had, we didn't have Jeffrey Wilson. We're working with Nick Smith at running back. We're trying to get him going. He just had a terrible game. I mean, we were getting blown off the line of scrimmage. There's only so much play calling can do when your talent level is that big of a gap. Only so much play calling can do.
I think you got to be more aggressive trying to get down the field.
You also got to think about, and I
go
like
sideways.
Drake's point in saying that, well, we didn't have a Jeffrey Wilson, we didn't have a Jalen Guyton. Now, we did talk about how, well, even though we did have those guys during that first matchup, it still is going to take away from your playbook, and it's going to take a lot of pages out of there whenever your top guys aren't on the field. And I feel like, yes, there could have been a little bit more aggressiveness to Josh's point, but I also think that Drake's right, and maybe they were a little more restricted than what we could potentially think behind the scenes. But regardless of what happened in Boca Raton, we talk about the season that North Texas has had. It's been New Denton. It's been all of the excitement around. But there's also been some awards heading the North Texas way. Jalen Guyton, Trevor Moore, Jeffrey Wilson, All-USA second team mentions, and then Mason Fine, the first team All-Conference USA quarterback and the Offensive Player of the Year. What does that mean for a program? Just real quick here, Drake.
Well, and you got Jalen Guyton getting Newcomer of the Year.
Yeah,
I
fair.
mean, that's
Yeah.
huge.
You're right.
A guy from Allen in the DFW area coming back to North Texas, showing that, hey, you can be successful at a D1 school in the North Texas area, right here, right down the road in Denton. So, I mean, that's huge for the entire program moving forward. They're young, they're good. The offense is going to even get better next year, which is crazy to think about with the historic season we've had. It's just great for the program.
It's awesome.
I harped on the play calling in that game. It's been great all year besides the two Florida Atlantic games. I mean, it speaks tremendous values when you have a guy like Mason Fine, who's not a local kid, but he's from nearby Oklahoma. You can come here, you can have success, you can put your name on the stadium. I mean, it may be a little premature, but we're probably going to retire Mason Fine's number when all is said and done here. I just think it shows that if you're a young kid, you can come here, be in a good system, be in a good offense, put up points, and play in big games like a conference title game.
Right. I mean, on the rundown, it said what has made this offense so successful. That right there is what made, when you have the Offensive Player of the Year, when you have a first-team quarterback, when you have Newcomer of the Year as a receiver, when you have Jeffrey Wilson, and had he not gotten injured, maybe he would have made that first team. You know, how can you not have? I mean, those are three. It's the trifecta that we've been working with all year, and could not be more excited about this offense. And they came together.
4 receivers over 500 yards too. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, awesome stuff from this North Texas offense. And when we come back here on Mean Green Game Day, we'll discuss the National Bowl preview and get a little bit more into the talk of what North Texas has done this season and how they've been successful on their way to taking on Troy coming up in just a little bit. You're watching Mean Green Game Day right here on North Texas Television.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Hey? God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Bowl season is upon us here on Mean Green Game Day, and let's run through some of the national bowls that are going to be taking place over the next couple of weeks, starting, well, with our bowl game on today, I guess I should say. Noon today is going to be the start of it all. But guys, I want to go through, and there are so many nice bowl games this year. You can talk about the Cotton Bowl, you can talk about the New Year's Six Bowls, the playoffs, but I do want you to power rank your top 3 non-playoff bowl games. Drake, let's start with you.
Non-playoff bowl games, I'm going to have to go number 1. This should be everybody's number 1, OSU versus USC. I mean, it's just a classic matchup. 2 amazing teams. Both of them thought that they probably should be in the college football playoff. Obviously, lots of people thought Ohio State over Bama. And, you know, if you're going to put Ohio State in there, USC said, us too. We only have 2 losses. We won our championship. So Pac-12 champions, Big Ten champions going at it in the Cotton Bowl. That's number 1. Number 2, Wisconsin-Miami, the Orange Bowl. That is an awesome redemption game for both of these teams. Miami has 2 losses there at the end of the year. They thought they were back on the map as one of the powerhouses of college football. Then you also have Wisconsin, who was undefeated until their loss. So both these teams trying to go back at it. Redemption Bowl, as I like to call it, Orange Bowl. And the last one I have, the Alamo Bowl. Actually not a New Year's Six game, but I think this is a great matchup between a Big 12 team and a Pac-12 team. Both of these conferences are saying, oh, we have a tougher schedule. Well, this is a chance to prove it. This is a chance for TCU to say, hey, we are a good team, or Stanford to say, hey, we're a better team than our record shows. So both of these teams have a lot to prove in that game. The Alamo Bowl is going to be a great one as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, Josh?
So you're excited to watch Bryce Love play, not Saquon Barkley. Best running back in the country. My best game, it's Ohio State USC. As a college football traditionalist, this is everything you want. 2 great brands, greatest stadium in the world, just going at it. I think it's going to be interesting to see JT Barrett, interesting to see Clay Helton of USC, and we'll just see what happens there. Then I'm going Central Florida and Auburn in the Peach Bowl. Who is not excited? We've wondered all year, how good is this Central Florida team? Does a non-power school belong in the playoff? Well, Central Florida gets to prove it against one of the more physical teams in the country, against Auburn. Jared Stidham. We saw the disappointment against Georgia after they had beaten Bama. How are they going to respond? Do they want to be in this game? I think it's something they play in the Peach Bowl, which is in the Falcons' new stadium. They play there like their next 3 games, dating back to the SEC title game. Then third, I'm going to go with a wild card game here. Louisville and Mississippi State.
Wow, okay.
Lamar Jackson, underrated all year, made it to the Heisman ceremony, but we haven't really seen him since he lost to Clemson back in September. It's going to be interesting to watch him play against an SEC defense. Mississippi State, of course, lost Dan Mullen, so it'll be interesting to see what they come in with. We're not sure if Fitzgerald will play, but that's going to be a good game to watch out for just to see Lamar Jackson one more time.
Yeah.
And then like Drake said, if the Cotton Bowl is not your number 1, then you're probably doing something wrong. I mean, just the matchup between USC and Ohio State, who have been in the top 10, I mean, just all year going back and forth. We didn't know if it was going to make it. Bowl prediction Sunday was really exciting to see who was going to be put in. These 2 teams are going to be good, and I could not be more excited that that's going to be held in the DFW area. You know, that's great for us. The Cotton Bowl could not have got a better matchup for them. My next one, I'm going to go Peach Bowl as well. I think that one is really exciting. We've been wondering if UCF all year has actually been the team that, you know, they seem to believe that they are. They're undefeated, you know, but they don't play necessarily as tough of a schedule. But, you know me, I love the War Eagle Auburn. I would love to see them win, but I would also like to see UCF make it an interesting game. I think that that's a good matchup for one of, you know, a smaller school to really show, look, we deserve this number 12 ranking. We should have been up here. Don't count us off just because we're not a Power 5 school. But then the other one, I'm going to end with Orange Bowl. Again, I think Wisconsin and Miami, that's a good game. You know, all year, those were 2 teams where we never really knew how they were going to end up. We asked the question all year, is the U back? You know, they made it. They ranked 10. Wisconsin, same type of thing, you know, very surprising. I think that those are 2 surprising teams that really showed up this year that not many people really expected to do well. So that'll be a good one as well.
Yeah, you look at the Orange Bowl and you look at the Cotton Bowl, and those are 2 matchups that I feel like are just perfect for this bowl season, with the storylines that were behind all 4 of those teams going into the playoffs, or really all the way throughout the playoff rankings. You had Miami, who was up at number 2 at one point, who, like you said, people were clamoring that the U is back and that they're going to be in the playoff and they're going to win the ACC, and then Clemson kind of silenced them. Same thing with Ohio State and Wisconsin. Now, Ohio State didn't get in like a Clemson did, but the fact that they're going to go up against a USC team and get to prove themselves one more time just down the road at Jerry World is going to be an outstandingly entertaining bowl season to watch, and I'm super excited about all of those big matchups, but there are also some pretty intriguing non-Power 5 matchups as well. Of course, North Texas, Troy, not a Power 5 matchup, so you can throw this into the mix. But give me a couple games to look out for if you're just college football fan on a Saturday or really even a weekday now that we're in the bowl season and watching a college football game. Which one should I be most intrigued about?
Well, you have North Texas and Troy, which obviously would be my number one, but I'm not going to just totally go out there and say, my team that I'm going to school for. But I will say this. The Idaho Potato Bowl.
Okay.
You just like the name.
Best name.
Awesome because of the name.
Like the name.
And really, that's what's going on there. You got Central Michigan, who's a good team. They've won their last 5 games. A huge winning streak. Wyoming's a pretty good team too. Wyoming's trying to bounce back after a tough loss last year in their bowl games. Both these teams are trying to get back on a bowl winning schedule, get their teams turned around. Their first bowl win for both these teams in the last 3 years. So be pretty big if either one of these teams won.
I'd like to see the shirts for the Idaho Potato Bowl. I feel like those would be some solid design there.
Yeah. He just likes the commercials for the potatoes. Commercial break.
Hey.
I'm going to go San Diego State and Army. This is a great matchup. Army and Navy just played. Just the running backs in this game. San Diego State's pretty much running back you on the West Coast right now while USC's been down. Just the running game, this is going to be a quick-moving game. Hopefully it'll be like a 2-hour game because they'll just run it all the time. Armed Forces Bowl, for me, that's best.
Question, you don't think UTSA should have been in that bowl game?
Oh, that's fair.
I mean,
we're a UNT show.
They're eligible. They're eligible.
I'm going to go, Josh and I are on the same page today. I think Armed Forces Bowl is one of the best Power 5 matchups. Obviously, like Drake said, we're so excited about North Texas versus Troy. But going on a different one, Army and San Diego State, like he said, that game should be high scoring. It should be quick. There's not going to be much time for messing up or anything like that. So I think that that'll be a good one. And like I said earlier about the Cotton Bowl, DFW really scored with some good bowl games this year.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a Frisco Bowl, there's the Cotton Bowl, there's all these great bowl games. You talked about the Armed Forces Bowl as well. One thing that I want to look at is this SMU La Tech matchup in Frisco, and those two teams playing against each other. Of course, Ben Hicks is in what Chad Morris was able to build there before he went to Arkansas. It's going to be interesting to see how they react with him gone. And then also La Tech, one of the better teams in the CUSA that North Texas was barely able to squeak past on the road in Ruston. But now that we've talked about these non-Power 5 matchups, just real quick, what is one bowl game that you're not going to watch?
FAU Akron, because it's going to be a blowout, and they're at Boca Raton. It's just a silly matchup, but that's what happens when Florida State doesn't want to go against a powerhouse like FAU. Yeah, I'm calling out Florida State because they didn't want to go and get beat by Florida Atlantic in whatever bowl they were going to play in. So, I think that was kind of what's going on there, and now Florida Atlantic's going to get an easy victory over Akron in their home stadium. It's just silly.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull a stunner here. You guys aren't seeing this coming. Texas, Missouri.
Wow, you were talking about your Longhorns
Man,
like
this
that?
is the boringest bowl. They've waited 2 years to play Missouri in a bowl. Oh, yeah, let's have the one Big 12 team that left and went to the SEC that they don't care about. This is ridiculous. Missouri's actually really good. Drew Lock is good. They did lose their offensive coordinator. Honestly, I'll probably watch that game, so I had a backup pick. Appalachian State and Toledo. What? No, I'm changing the channel. Both of those games are bad. I'm just disappointed Texas isn't playing A&M.
Ashley?
And then I'm going to use the verbiage from Josh here. The most boringest bowl that we have is definitely the Boca Raton Bowl. I mean, there's going to be, maybe 1,000 fans that show up to that. They ban tailgating. No one's coming out. That stadium, I mean, here's another Josh, quote. You better find something better to do on your day than watch the Akron versus FAU
I don't
game.
waste people's time.
Yeah, definitely so. So with all of that being said, there are a lot of Conference USA bowl games to talk about, and we're going to talk about that coming up on the other side of the break here on Mean Green Game Day.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome back to the final episode of Mean Green Game Day as we lead you up to kickoff between the North Texas Mean Green and the Troy Trojans on ESPN down in the New Orleans Bowl in New Orleans, Louisiana. Once again, joined at the desk by Drake Lawson, Josh Conrad, and Ashley Pickle. I'm your host, Kyle Yeomans. And guys, North Texas, one of 9 Conference USA teams to be in a bowl game, a NCAA best 10 bowl-eligible teams throughout the conference, and Only 9 teams made it. So that brings me to the question of, you kind of alluded to it earlier, Josh and Drake, and really UTSA as the odd man out. They won their games, they got bowl eligible, but didn't end up getting an invitation. What do you think about UTSA and the Roadrunners not getting into the ball game, and how far have they fallen as a program from really the start of this year to the end of this year?
Oh yeah, from the start they were looking really good. They were one of the best teams. Whenever we played them here at Apogee Stadium, it was like, oh, whoever wins this game really is going to win Conference USA West and was going to go to the Conference USA Championship. At least there was a thought going around. UTSA fell off. I mean, they fell off hard. I don't know how they finished 6-6 because they looked like a losing record team at times this year. And, you know, bowl committees took attention to that and they didn't invite them to their bowl games. And that's what happens.
And it's weird because we were talking at the beginning of the year, how long can they keep Frank Wilson there? Because he was doing so well. The recruiting was so well. It seemed like they were going to win the West this year. I picked them to win the West. I mean, they've hit rock bottom, and not rock bottom, but you're 6-6, and it's got to be disappointing because it seems like we have so many bowls now in college football. There's a Potato Bowl. There's probably a Movers Bowl. There's a whatever other bad bowl names are out there. The Boca Raton Bowl. Like, that's just the name of a city. Can we not come up with – anyways, UTSA.
Frisco Bowl.
The Frisco Bowl. Okay, we're back on UTSA. They're 6-6. It just – this program kind of fell apart. I think Frank Wilson's still the right guy there, and I think they'll be okay next year. They'll have some guys coming back. But this is a team all signs pointed towards this year. It's kind of like what North Texas is going to be like next year. If we just fall off and go 6-6 and don't make a bowl game, that's how we would be feeling. But definitely a disappointing year for the Roadrunners.
The Gasparilla
That's what I couldn't think of.
Lawnmower Bowl. Want to talk about a bad bowl name?
It's because you should go mow your lawn instead of watch the game.
But no, like we said, I mean, going into they made it to a bowl game, I believe, for first time in their program history. Last year, you know, everyone was on a hype, thought they were going to be really good. They went 3-0 to start off the year. I mean, beat Baylor, which at the beginning of the year we thought was actually a big thing. Kyle, we shortly realized that was not any
exactly right.
significance. Yep. But I mean, they were 3-0. People not only in Conference USA but nationally were saying, hey, keep an eye out for UTSA. You know, they could very easily come up undefeated on the season, end up going to a bowl game, maybe even make some national rankings. And then here they are at 6-6, which they clinched their very last game of the season to get a bowl, and then they didn't even get it. I mean, talking about someone who really, really plummeted this year, it would be UTSA.
Yeah, I remember during one of our first shows this year, we were talking about how UTSA, how were they going to be stopped? They could, at one point, Kirk Herbstreit went on the air and said, hey, watch this UTSA team. They could go 12-0. Well, that didn't necessarily turn out in their favor. But I do want to talk about some of these other bowl games. We've already talked about the Frisco Bowl down the road at Toyota Stadium, SMU and La Tech. That's a brand new bowl game. First time they're ever going to play that bowl game here in Frisco. Of course, that stadium's hosted the FCS championships for the past couple of years. But what do you think about that matchup? I talked about how Chad Morris built up this SMU program, got them to a couple bowl games, one of which coming this year against a La Tech team that's in the Conference USA. But what do you think about that matchup just down the road?
I think Chad Morris leaving that school is definitely going to have a lot to play in this bowl game. I mean, I know they're going to want to play well, but when your coach kind of leaves you like that, it hurts. You know, you're going to see a similar situation with Florida State.
Yep.
How do these teams react to their coaches leaving? La Tech's not a bad team. I mean, we barely lost to La Tech by, what, a point?
Yep.
At La Tech?
24-23.
They're a great team. So I think it's going to be a great game, and SMU's got a lot to prove.
And it's the SMU players who are upset that they didn't hire Jeff Traylor. They hired Sonny Dykes. And so it's kind of like, it's a team that doesn't like the coach that they have. How are they going to respond? But let me go on a tirade really quick. The Frisco Bowl. Do you guys know Austin, Texas is in the same state? How is there not an Austin, Texas Bowl, but there is a Frisco Bowl?
Well, it goes back to money. Frisco, they have the D2. They have the D2 championship there. They have the money there. They have the star there. They have all of the shops and whatnot. You got Stonebriar. You can pull more people into Frisco than you can
This has been a debate for a while because I'm from Austin, so it's been in the papers.
Of course.
There should be an Austin Bowl. You ask players, do you guys want to go to Frisco? You guys want to go to Austin?
Traffic's better in Frisco than Austin.
That's fair.
Yeah, but what are they going to do? Go to Topgolf as their hoorah to get to a bowl game?
It's not even in Frisco. It's like right outside of Frisco.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, I agree with Josh on that. I think that as the matchup as a whole, I mean, with SMU losing their coach, it honestly might make this a better matchup. I think SMU was a very good team going into this year. Obviously, that's why their coach, left in the first place. And La Tech, like we've said all year, we expected them to be so good, just like WKU, and they didn't really perform up. They're still a good team, but didn't necessarily perform up to the standards which they've been held going to the Conference USA Championship for the past however many years in a row. So I think that this might actually end up being two fairly even teams with a good bowl game for the first ever Frisco Bowl.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
It's good news for North Texas that SMU hired Sonny Dykes instead of Jeff Traylor.
Yeah,
to
no,
get
it
that
actually is.
recruiter, he's one of the best recruiters in the state of Texas at reaching out to high school coaches. To have him leave with Chad Morris and go to Arkansas, that's a blessing for North Texas and other DFW colleges.
Yeah, definitely so. But if there's a Frisco Bowl and if there's a Boca Raton Bowl, can we get a Denton Bowl somewhere here? Can we host a bowl game? Maybe a Waco Bowl down there? Anybody clamoring for that one? No. Okay.
Teams will decline the Waco Bowl.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I wanted to throw that out there. But we've got a little bit of time left here, but I do want to get your overall prediction on how the conference is going to do as a whole. Give me a record, Drake, of how the Conference USA is going to fare.
Well, I mean, I think we'll go have a winning record. I don't
Really?
think I really do think so, because there's a couple of games on there FAU's going to win. I think FIU's got a great chance. UAB's got a good chance against Ohio. I think it's probably 6-3 is where we go. I mean, Florida State's a tough matchup. Southern Miss, I don't know if they're going to win that game. That's tough. North Texas, Troy, it's another tough matchup. So 6-3 is a solid number.
I'll go 5-4. I'll say we have a winning record. We have some winnable games.
Yeah.
5-4.
I said 5-4 as well.
All right, 5-4, winning record all the way across the board. That's outstanding, and there are a lot of good matchups between these Conference USA teams. So we'll be looking forward to that. When we come back, we're going to be joined by a couple analysts from the road crew, Nick Laupius and Jackson Dunovit, as they go through the film room of what happened to North Texas and FAU, and also what's made them so successful over the season thus far. You're watching Mean Green Game Day right here on NTTV.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to savethefood.com.
Here we go. We're going to go out there in the rain. We're going to get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh, yeah. Yes. So much fun. Mwah. Yeah, we're getting so wet.
How's your hair? Is it pretty?
Daddy,
It's pretty.
Maybe I'll
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mean Green Game Day as we lead you up to kickoff between the North Texas Mean Green and the Troy Trojans. We've talked about that matchup between North Texas and FAU in the Conference USA Championship game already, but I'm going to give it over to Nick Laupius and Jackson Dunovit, who are going to run through some of the film from that ball game and see what the Mean Green have to do to improve and come out with a victory today against Troy. Nick, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle. And before we get things kicked off in the New Orleans Bowl, let's take a look back at the conference championship game, look at a couple of plays that Florida Atlantic had to really get some momentum. Also, a couple of plays that North Texas did well on the offensive side of the ball and on defense. And the first one, let's get right into it. It's a couple of trick plays fooling the UNT defense to give Florida Atlantic a sizable lead.
Yeah, the first thing we're going to look at, we're going to take a look at the Florida Atlantic double reverse. It's going to give them a touchdown. It's going to take the air out of UNT. UNT had forced a field goal early in this game. They got into the red zone, were able to break it down. As we look at this play, you're going to take a look at the offensive line. Does a great job acting like it's just a straight jet reverse for FAU. They get the ball. John Franklin's wide open, sitting there on the sideline. UNT pays him no mind. Now we're going to go look at the play that set this up. They're going to do another reverse. Again, they're going to make it look like a jet sweep, and they're going to end up faking it, going right up just outside the tight end, just right off his right leg. The secondary was kind of stagnant at this point. It was early. They didn't really know what was going on. FAU came out fast. They came out hard. UNT just wasn't ready for it. And as you can see, as we go back to the double reverse this time, you can just see the secondary shifted over, acted like it was a run again, and completely paid John Franklin III on the outside no mind, and he was able to break free for another touchdown.
So back-to-back trick plays or back-to-back reverses for Florida Atlantic really had the UNT defense fold. But another play early on in the third quarter, it was 27-0, but this next pass play from Florida Atlantic in the UNT secondary looks like a couple of missed tackles and bad angles allowed another touchdown for Florida Atlantic.
Basically how this play starts, you can see UNT's lining up in a zone defense. All the secondary is pushed back, giving about a 5 to 10 yard cushion. The slot receiver does a good job, gets 10 yards before he makes his break. The safety's supposed to be covering over the middle, but he gets caught flat-footed. The minute that slot receiver gets his break, he cuts down towards the middle of the field, and the strong safety just has nowhere to go with it. And as the FAU receiver moves through the field, he catches up, and again, we just have another corner that's caught flat-footed for UNT. The secondary was very sluggish early. I mean, this was barely into the second half. Third quarter, it's 27-0. You can tell they're not feeling it. If you watch the secondary at the end of the play, the three guys that are running after him, two of them just completely stop. There's no effort going in at this point. It's early in the game still, and they're down 27-0. This touchdown makes it 34-0. It's not looking good for the Mean Green at this point, but we'll move forward. We'll see the secondary make a couple of stands later on in the game.
Yeah, and then going in a little bit later into the third quarter, North Texas looking a little bit better, and then this next play on offense, the first touchdown of the game, an explosive play from Turner Smiley.
It's a great job by Turner Smiley. It's a good read by Mason Fine. It's a read draw going up the middle. He looks off Nick Smith and pulls it in. Turner Smiley does a great job. All he does is just runs a quick 4-yard slant, gets good position on his corner, goes on the inside, is able to get room. Once he makes the catch, the safety who's supposed to be pulling up forward is supposed to help the cornerback out. But as you can see, Turner Smiley just has too much speed going across the middle of the field. His momentum's able to carry him past the safety, and from there, basically from the 50-yard line, it's just a foot race. And at this point, Turner Smiley is the only one right now on that field. He wants that touchdown. He doesn't care who else is around him, and it's just a race to the end, and he's able to outrun the entire FAU secondary.
So Turner Smiley stepped up big in the last couple of games of the season. Then in the third quarter, you talked about it a little bit, the secondary and the defense for North Texas, and later in the third quarter started finding their groove on this next play. It looks like they were able to contain the quarterback and force Florida Atlantic to punt.
Yeah, it's a great job by the defense coordinator for the Mean Green. Basically what we're giving them a straight up 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers look, and they do a bull rush down the middle. All 3 linebackers go from the A, B, and C gaps just straight up the middle. And you can see the defensive linemen getting pressure on the inside, which is one of the rare things they haven't been able to do in this game. And finally, the defensive tackles are able to stay home, stay at the line of scrimmage, and with the linebackers going on the outside, they're able to force the quarterback Driscoll into the defensive tackle's waiting arms. There was nowhere for him to go on this play. They were just completely outmanned. It was defensive line and linebackers against a straight-up offensive line and a running back helping. And you can see every single defensive lineman on this play gets position. They're able to push all of the FAU defenders out of the way and finally get a little pressure on the defense. This right here was the start for UNT. They finally got a little momentum with this play. They were able to force 3 straight 4-and-outs and moving in against FAU, getting into the red zone, finally got into the red zone, got another field goal, got another touchdown. It looked like they were going to make a comeback, and then, of course, we saw FAU make another late touchdown.
So a little bit of signs of life late in that game for the UNT defense. And now looking into North Texas' opponent for today's game, the New Orleans Bowl, Troy, they had a very good defense, and this next play right here is just one of the better plays you've seen from the Troy defense this season.
I'm very impressed by this Troy defense, especially on this play. What we're going to look at is the Arkansas State team is able to come out. They're going to move the wide receiver. They're going to move the running back over. They're going to shift him over into a trips look on the left side. And what I'm very impressed about is immediately the Troy defense picks it up. You have the safety rotate down to pick up the slot receiver, and you have the 2 cornerbacks shift over. You have the cornerback that's supposed to be lined up against the slot receiver, sees the shift, moves over, and now knows his man is the running back. He has to take the back trip. And so that's what we're going to be able to do. Almost 100% of the time when you see a trip offense and you see spacing like this, you're going to see the outside wide receiver come down and he's going to go for a bubble look. The Troy defense picks this up perfectly. I mean, this is NFL caliber defense and just the mindset of being able to pick it up. And he's able to force the Arkansas State quarterback to look into a secondary read. You have your number 1 cornerback going against the number 1 wide receiver. And the one thing that the cornerback does well is he's able to push the wide receiver to the back corner of the end zone, almost kind of multiplying the defenders on him. Now the wide receiver has to worry about catching it inbounds and worrying about the cornerback in his face. the quarterback is he's desperate for Arkansas State. He wants to get a score. They're inside the red zone. It's 0-0. It's late in the first quarter that someone needs to score. And so he tries to make a big play happen, and it just goes the other way. The Troy defense does a great job being able to bat it up in the air. At this point, it's just a tip drill.
And now another thing that North Texas has to worry about is the secondary and then the passing offense for Troy. Is this next play is a very explosive offensive play for the Troy Trojans.
We don't see many great plays from this Troy offense. They're averaging 30 points a game, but they're very slow coming out of the gate. They have a little bit of speed coming from the wide receivers, but when it comes to offensive line and running backs, they're struggling at best. The quarterback he does have a cannon thus far. We've been able to see he does like to take the long bombs. This is a perfect example. Throwing it from the 50-yard line and throws a beautiful, beautiful ball. It's a good job by the wide receiver. I'm going to break this down. And I'm going to look at it's completely the wide receiver. It's all his read of what he does to start this play. He is the entire reason they got a touchdown. They know it's a seam play. Arkansas State knows it's a seam play. It's very simple, very basic. It's one-on-one, number one wide receiver versus, at this point, the number 2 cornerback. They had done some rotating earlier in the game. And so we're going to look at the Troy wide receiver makes a quick move moves to the outside, stutter steps, cuts it back in, already has the position. You have your strong safety supposed to help out the cornerback at this point, and he's caught flat-footed like we saw the North Texas defenders early in the game. And so we're going to take a look. The strong safety isn't able to use his speed to get back into the play. And so it's basically there's 5 yards before the Troy receiver even touches the ball. And once he gets the ball in his hands, it's a touchdown, surefire. There's no question about it.
So there's a couple of quick looks at the Troy offense and defense, but coming up on the other side of the break, Kyle and the rest of the gang will take a closer look at today's matchup between the North Texas Mean Green and the Troy Trojans. So stick with us on Mean Green Game Day.
I understand. I know it's not your typical resume.
Okay, well.
But candidate. But I've been working double shifts just to pay for books. I've been raising my 2 little brothers. I'm determined, driven, motivated. Isn't that what you're looking for?
Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Start a story. Adopt at theshelterpetproject.org.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Right back here on Mean Green Game Day, here before the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl in New Orleans, Louisiana. We're back here in Denton in the NTTV studios, leading you up to kickoff between Troy and North Texas. And guys, this is a matchup from the Sun Belt way back when. Troy dominating the series 8-2 overall so far, and really the last meeting going toward Troy's way in 2012. Troy won that game 14-7. What do you expect about this matchup, though? It's completely different. North Texas has since moved on to the Conference USA. Troy has stayed back. They're in the Sun Belt, and I guess you could say that. But Troy did end up with a conference championship this year. Drake, I do want to start with you. What do you expect out of this matchup today, and what does Troy bring to the table as a team that's coming in at 11-2?
Well, Troy, you mentioned the early days. They don't have OCU Manura and DeMarcus Ware anymore on the
that's
defensive
fair.
line. So, I mean, it's not going to be quite that great of a defense. But they have a really good defense. I mean, they're coming in, they're 27th in the nation, going against the 19th best offense with the Mean Green. That'll be the big tester. I mean, you got a great defense and a great offense. If North Texas can score, Troy's not used to playing like that. So I think that'll be a key to the game. But it's all defense with this squad. I mean, they've got a little bit of offensive playmakers, but not enough to talk about. It's really their defense where they win football games.
You mentioned DeMarcus, where that was my fun fact. I was going to ask you, former Cal. He said it, and my heart broke. But we'll go. Anyways, this is such a good defensive football team. Like you talked about, that's their strength. They have 15 interceptions on the year, 36 sacks. They only give up 17.5 points per game, and they've given up 0 plays of 50 yards or more. They're also the only team in the country to not allow more than 25 points in a single game this year. Now, they're not playing great offense. They're playing the Sun Belt. Let's run through these teams. You've got Georgia State, New Mexico State, Lafayette, ULM, Idaho, Potato Bowl, South Alabama, Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, Texas State. These aren't offensive powerhouses. Arkansas State's in there too, but they're actually a decent offense.
Yeah.
So they're not playing the best teams, but they did go to LSU. They did beat LSU in Death Valley, although LSU's not what they normally are. So it's a team that the defense is going to be the key, and it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, our offense go up against their defense, strength versus strength on that side of the football. It's going to be interesting to see if we can break through that defense, if our O-line can hold up against their D-line.
Yeah, and I mean, like they've said, we're preaching the defense is what this team is made of, but the offense is what our team is made of. So if you look at it, I mean, really, like he said, they haven't gone up against an offense like North Texas. And if we're going to say maybe a team like North Texas, I still think that obviously going into this that we are probably still the better team. But the offense in particular, this is going to be huge. But that being said, the biggest thing is since they have such a good defense, you cannot turn over the ball. North Texas is not going to be able to turn over the ball and still have a successful offense on this one. They're going to have to know going into it that their defense is too good to allow turnovers to happen.
Yeah, in that offense for North Texas versus the defense for Troy, that's going to be an outstanding matchup. Whenever that is on, those two units are on the field, that's whenever the TV sets need to be turned to ESPN watching this game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Troy, you look at how dominant they were in the early 2000s. They had 5 straight conference titles in the Sun Belt from 06 to 2010. And then you look at right now they have the nation's 5th largest winning streak, standing at 6. And is this team the real deal? I know, Drake, you've talked about it off air, but is this team really going to be such a good team coming into this game that North Texas is going to have some issues?
Personally, I think they're a little overrated. If you look at how they won the Sun Belt title, which was the last game of the year against Arkansas State, they were down in that game, and if it wasn't for a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown, a 99 kick return for a touchdown, and a last-minute game-winning drive to score the touchdown and win the game, I mean, it was like us going against UTSA. That's the perfect comparison that I can make. You're going in with that kind of confidence where you barely won that game thanks to a lot of lucky breaks. Maybe they come into this game like we went into FAU a couple weeks ago, and they have too much confidence because, honestly, they don't deserve to have a lot of confidence. They got lucky.
It's a team, it's not a sexy matchup. When I heard the name we're playing Troy, I'm like, that's my uncle's name, not a football team. But and then you look at it and you start to look into the stats a little bit more and you say, okay, this is going to be interesting because they are a good defense and they are a sound football team. Neil Brown's a really good head coach. Under Neil Brown, they are 23-0 going into the 4th quarter. When he got there, they started 3-8. Since then, they've won 21 of their last 26 games. So this is a consistent football program. Neil Brown's doing a great job. He was offensive coordinator at Tech under Tommy Tuberville for a couple of years, and then he was offensive coordinator at Troy before that. So I think it's going to be interesting. This is a program that's going in the right direction. It's a great matchup. 2 programs with two good coaches that are on the way up.
And, I mean, like we said, they are a good team. But I'm going to go with Drake here and say a little bit overrated, and I think that here's why. When you go off and you beat LSU in Death Valley one of the first 2 weeks of college football, that's what people hear. And for the rest of the season, they don't watch you, they don't care about you, but they remember that. That's like, I mean, obviously we know UTSA very well, but other people throughout the nation don't. So when they hear, oh, UTSA beat Baylor, that's what they're going to associate it with. And so that's what Troy is associated with this year, is beating LSU, who ended up not being even a very good team. So I think that, I mean, just going in, playing the game that we can play, not going overzealous, not making dumb mistakes. You can't give up 100-yard kickoff returns, and you can't give up punt returns, and you can't fumble the ball. If you just go in, play fundamental football, really make sure that you're doing everything you can to just play your game, I think that we will be very successful with them. It's going to be the same type of thing that happened to them in their conference championship of just giving up these unbelievable plays and getting lucky with them that we can't allow to happen to be successful in this game.
You know what the best part of this game is?
What's that?
Troy isn't Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, that's
so we don't have to worry about playing Florida Atlantic again. I think it's going to be good for our guys to just look up and not see that owl logo across the chest.
2 of the 4 losses for North Texas have come against FAU and Lane Kiffin. But now how do you recover from that FAU loss in Boca Raton? And of course, no Jeffrey Wilson, no Jalen Guyton. How are you going to play and adjust for North Texas as they go up against this Troy defense?
I think you play loose. You don't play timid. You don't play like you're going to lose. You play loose.
Just do your game plan. You can't game plan. You can game plan, adjust to the opponent, but do what you're going to do. Say, this is our game plan. This is who we are on offense. We're not going to play this game knowing that we have to play it safe.
Exactly.
We know they're a good defense. Be aggressive on play calling. Trust your players. Trust Mason Fine. Trust these young running backs. The best part about the bowl game is the bowl practices. You get 2 weeks to develop this team that's not in spring football. So just having these extra practices, having these extra time to get these players better, get your scheme in there, that's the best part of this bowl game, honestly.
And then the moment they walked off that FAU field, that game was gone from their mind.
Mm-hmm.
They have said all year the bowl game is what they want to win. That is what they're going to do. And if they go in with the mindset that they started off this season with, that they went into those summer and spring practices with, that they're going to win this bowl game, this team can produce and they can win this game.
Yeah, North Texas last year not finishing their ultimate goal of winning that bowl game against Army, losing in overtime to the Black Knights. They got their revenge this year. Now North Texas needs a little bit more revenge and maybe able to do that against the Troy Trojans. Coming up in just a little bit, but on the other side of the break, we're going to predict some of the nation's top bowl games, and we'll go through that here on the desk at Mean Green Game Day. You're watching us live here on NTTV.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, they can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
Listen.
All it took was someone who would insist that I just try.
Suddenly, everything was turned around because they judge you.
You tell them, I don't need this.
No one is going to understand.
Unless they've been through it, how can they?
Then one day you realize
You feel so hopeless.
I need help. I need help.
You feel so hopeless.
Then one day you realize,
unless they've been through it, how can they understand?
I don't need this.
No one's going to judge you. Suddenly everything was turned around because they insist that I just try.
All it took was someone who would just
listen.
We're about 10 minutes till kickoff between North Texas and Troy in the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl down in the Superdome. But we're going to pick some of the nation's top bowl matchups this afternoon as we get ready for bowl season. There are a lot of great matchups, including the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and both playoff games really all the way throughout. So guys, let's go through some of these matchups, starting off with the Fiesta Bowl, Washington and Penn State. These are two teams that last year were right on the edge or in the playoff, and this year another great season for the Huskies and for the Nittany Lions. I know our graphics guy Jonathan's going to be cheering for his Penn State guys, and Saquon Barkley as well, and I'm going to have the Nittany Lions winning this one in Arizona, taking down Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really shouldn't be a close game.
Yeah.
I think Washington's a bit overrated. Penn State lost a close game, nail-biter, heartbreaker at Ohio State. And if you're going to consider Ohio State to be maybe in the playoff, Penn State's a good team. They had one bad game, but, you know, they have 2 losses on the record. They're going to prove why they should have actually maybe been considered the college football playoff themselves when they blow out Washington in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
I was going to pick Penn State. I'm taking Washington now. Drake disrespects the Pac-12 all year long. I'm not having it. You don't respect Pac-12 after dark. If Does this game kick off at night? Does anybody know? If
I
it
have
kicks
no
off
It's
at
the
night,
Fiesta Bowl, so probably not.
if it kicks off at night, Washington wins. If it kicks off during the day, Penn State wins. Put like a half.
Is
We
there
don't
going to
have
be
a
a half?
graphic
We
for
don't have a
that.
graphic.
We don't have a graphic
Who are you
for
picking?
that.
Say who you pick.
I'm picking Washington at night.
Okay.
Penn State during the day.
Okay.
I think
This is
Washington.
not
We're going to
going
put
on the
Penn
official
State on the
record
graphic
board.
below. It's
I
going to
think
be Penn State.
Washington's a little underrated. Penn State lost to Michigan State, man. Saquon Barkley is amazing. He's not as good as Bryce Love. But Washington, I think Jake Browning brings it. I think Washington, they win a close one if it's at night.
Okay, so change it. It's going to be Washington
At
on
night.
the graphics.
I don't even. Too much. We're going to go with Penn State on this one. I think that Penn State is a much tougher team than Washington has faced all year. I respect the Pac-12 after dark. I really do.
Never said I didn't respect them.
But I think that Penn State has they've proven this year that they're, again, one of those teams kind of like a Wisconsin, kind of like a USC, who we didn't know at the beginning of the year that these teams are really going to stick out in college football this year, but they've surprised all of us. And I mean, heck, I'm going to go Penn State on this one.
Yeah, so with that one being said, there's another game that's a New Year's Six Bowl that we've talked about already that I'm probably more excited about than most people. And we also have another NTTV worker here that's cheering for his Ohio State Buckeyes and Martin Zarenko. But Ohio State and USC just down the road in Arlington at the Cotton Bowl at Jerry World, AT&T Stadium. I have the Buckeyes winning this one. I think they were kind of snubbed getting into the playoff. Now, I do agree that the committee got it right. I think Alabama should have been there, but Ohio State's definitely that 15. I think they're right on the edge of being in that Final Four playoff push, but I think they're going to take down the Trojans. I don't even think it's going to be close.
I think it'll be close, and I think you're right. Bama should have been in there. But this was actually, I like the Pac-12. I like USC. This is a really tough matchup, honestly, for me to choose. This one's harder than the playoff, in my opinion, than the playoff games.
Okay.
But I have to say Ohio State's probably going to win it because of the momentum JT Barrett has. He's coming back home. He grew up right, not necessarily down the street, but in the DFW area, right outside the DFW area. He's coming back. He's going to want to prove everybody wrong. He's going to want to get a big victory coming home. USC's going to play him tough, but Ohio State, they just have something about Arlington. They won the national championship there. They're coming back. I feel like Ohio State wins this game.
You know, it kills momentum. 30-day layoffs in between your last game and the bowl game. Disrespecting the Pac-12 once again. Do you guys know what time this game kicks off? Kicks off at night. Pac-12 after dark. USC's taking it. I think Sam Darnold. I think Ohio State, there's going to be a little bit of a letdown from not making the playoff. I can't trust a team that lost by 31 points to Iowa. I know they've had a lot of great wins since then. I can't trust them in this game. I think Sam Darnold is going to go off and maybe his send-off on his way to go play for the Cleveland Browns. But I think USC wins this game. I think it's really close. This is probably the best game of the bowl season. Super close matchup, but Pac-12, USC wins.
I think we need to change Josh's graphics to like a sun or a moon. I think that's kind of what we're getting here.
You got to consider everything in these games.
I'm going to go Ohio State, definitely. I think that they are going to – USC had a chance to get into the playoffs as well. There was a bunch of teams this year that had a chance to get off into the playoffs. But I really think that Ohio State is more upset that they didn't get in it, and they're going to come back with the tenacity of we should have been in. We were that 5th seed. We're the first people knocked out. We're not doing it. We're playing down here. Texas is great, maybe not the most preferred place to play type of thing, but they are going to come back in, and they are going to just try and destroy USC to prove we should have been in there and Bama shouldn't. Now, I do agree Bama should have been in, but from their standpoint, you saw Nick Saban after they even played their game, did a little phone in for Scott Van Pelt. He was like, we deserve to be in there, and he's not going to let that team come in, ready to just lay down.
Well, let's talk about that Sugar Bowl matchup between Alabama and Clemson. The two teams, of course, being in the national championship game the past 2 years. Now they're going to meet again in the playoff. This time, I think Roll Tide gets the best of Clemson, even though Clemson comes in as the #1 seed, even though I guess technically their fans are going to be in attendance since it's closer than the Rose Bowl is, but Alabama also closer to New Orleans in the Superdome that North Texas is about to play in than Clemson is. But I think Roll Tide is going to do it. I think Jalen Hurts has a big game, Bo Scarborough as well.
Yeah, Nick Saban. How can you go against him? He's seen Clemson before. He will see them again. He's a little feeling disrespected right now.
Yeah.
He should have been in there. If Clemson can lose to Pittsburgh and easily make it, or not Pittsburgh, Syracuse. They easily, last year they lost to Pittsburgh. This year they lose to Syracuse and they easily make it. Oh, they're so great. Bama feels disrespected. They lost at Auburn in a rivalry game. They're going to come in and they're going to play really well.
And the Alabama defense has a month to get healthy.
Exactly.
Everybody's going to get healthy. There's one thing about beating Nick Saban. It's great. It's awesome. But then when you realize you have to play him a year later, I don't want any part of that. In the least exciting of the games played in the Superdome this bowl season, North Texas Troy being the more exciting one, Alabama's going to win. I think this game will be good, but I think the Alabama defense fully being healthy, having a full defense here, I think Jeremy Pruitt coaching this game is going to play a big part for Alabama. I think Alabama close early, but I think it's kind of like the Washington game last year where they wear Clemson down with that defense.
Yeah.
I think Alabama survives.
And Josh could not have said it better. You do not beat Nick Saban in a national championship and then want to play him again the next year, especially in the first round, because he's not going to get to that championship game. Will he win it? I don't know. We'll obviously talk about that in a second, but he is not going to win this first round of the thing, especially against a team who just broke their heart last year. So there's no way. Nick Saban is out for revenge on this one.
Now let's move on to this other semifinal game in Pasadena, California, the Rose Bowl. Oklahoma and Georgia, two teams that have been really on the edge of really how good are these two teams all year long. Finally, they proved themselves at the end. Georgia, of course, over at Auburn in the SEC championship, and then Oklahoma with a couple big wins down the stretch to continue cementing their legacy. Oklahoma has Baker Mayfield, the Heisman winner now. What do you expect out of these games, or this game between these two red programs going at each other in the Rose Bowl? I think it's totally fitting. But I think Oklahoma is going to come out and win this ball game.
I'm setting up for a prediction I made weeks ago. I'll say it in a second, but I think Oklahoma comes away with this victory. Baker Mayfield is unstoppable right now. And what's the one weakness Oklahoma has? It's pass defense, not run defense. Georgia can't pass the ball like Iowa State did. They're not going to get beat. Oklahoma wins this game.
Okay.
This is a tough game for me because Oklahoma on one point has all the offensive momentum. They've been looking like the best team in the country for probably the past month or so. But it's that month layoff. Do you have that timing in sync even after a month? Because it's so different going from the bowl practices and going up against your own guys to going up against a full-speed defense that wants to tackle and beat you. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. But Oklahoma has done so well against SEC teams in bowl games of late. They beat Auburn last year. They beat Bama in the Sugar Bowl back in 2014. They've had so much success. I really want to pick Georgia. I'm going to take Oklahoma. Barely wins this game. I think the offense finds itself enough. Oklahoma close.
Josh and I have been on the same page for the past couple months. I want to pick Georgia. I really do.
Yeah.
I think OU is going to come out, and I think they're going to get this one. Baker Mayfield is Oklahoma. He has embodied that program. And, I mean, he's on a roll right now. And he just won the Heisman. Do I like that? Not necessarily, but he did. And so not only is he rolling into it with a successful team, he's rolling into it on a high note himself. So as long as he doesn't let his head get in the way of his playing, he should be fine.
So with all of this being said, that brings us to one final bowl prediction for Season 3 here of Mean Green Game Day. It's North Texas and Troy coming up in just a little bit. The players are excited about being in New Orleans, and this Sun Belt matchup from years ago is set for just around the corner. And guys, North Texas hasn't won 10 games in who knows how long. It's been quite a while. I think North Texas is going to get into double digits with a win over Troy, and I think they're going to win it by 10 or more. I think they're going to win it by double digits as well. The Mean Green are going to end this season 10-4. New Denton is going to be established, and the R&L New Orleans Bowl trophy is going to come back to this North Texas athletic department, and it'll be displayed for everybody to see. Drake, who you got?
Our offense versus their defense. Mason Fine's got to be the offensive player of the year he was for Conference USA. He's got to be the MVP. And I think he does it. I think North Texas pulls out a major victory.
I think we'll come into this game, we'll struggle early on offense, but I think we won't get down because Troy doesn't have that explosive offense to counter. I think second half we'll make the adjustments like we made kind of in the FAU and other games. Yeah. We'll come out, a Trevor Moore last-second field goal. It's a dome, so there's no weather to worry about. There's no wind or anything. Trevor Moore, 24-23. North Texas wins this game.
Wow.
I've been joking about needing blood pressure medicine all season. If that happens, I really might need to go to the doctor and get some. But
prepare.
Okay, I will. But we've got, like I said, I heard, in summer workouts and even previously in the spring workouts that their goal this season was to win their bowl game. They went last year off an APR score. They want to win this bowl game. And now not only do they have a chance to win the bowl game, they have a chance to get 10 wins in a season. In a program like North Texas, who was 1-11 2 years ago, that is unbelievable. These guys are going to come in more determined than ever. And what do they have to lose? Honestly, some of our seniors, Andy Flushy, they're all going to step up, So sad that Jay Will's not in it, but we've got that. Mason Fine's ready to prove that he deserved that Offensive Player of the Year, and North Texas is going to win this game. I hope it's not by a blood pressure medicine score, but hopefully it's a lot more than that.
So North Texas across the board, and Troy is going down this afternoon. That's going to do it for another season of Mean Green Game Day live inside these NTTV studios. Special thank you to everybody who pulled it off. Hunter Arnold, our director, for Tyler Parrish, for Joey Catalano, and for the entire crew up here at the desk, Drake Lawson, Josh Conrad, and Ashley Pickle. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Kyle Yeoman signing off for one final time. This has been Mean Green Game Day. Thanks for joining us, and go Mean Green.